This is Umar for BoxNation. Privileged to be joined by Mr. Top Rank himself, the legendary Bob Arum. Bob, it's been a while since I've caught up with you. Just want to get your thoughts on the state of boxing over here in the UK, of course, in the Middle East, where it's absolutely booming, of course, on your side of the world in the States. How would you assess the state of boxing at the moment?
I think I must say that uh, right now, because of what's happening in Saudi, what's happening in the United States, UK, Japan, Australia, uh, boxing has never been as strong, uh, certainly in the last 10 years, as it is now.
Okay.
I mean, the the tremendous number of really good, interesting fights that will be happening uh, in the spring and summer of this year. I've never seen anything like it.
And people will be interested to know about your work ethic. I mean, still on top of your game, Bob, at 92 years old. It's quite incredible what you're doing at this stage of your career.
Well, like my buddy George Foreman says, uh, and I assume you're talking about my age. Age is a number, you know. That's all it is. It's really how you feel, how your health is, and how interested you are in what you're doing. So again, I don't look at that as being plaudits for me because of my age. It's just that what's happening now is so interesting and so exciting that I'm happy to be a part of it.
Sounds like your drive and love for boxing is still the same, Bob.
That's correct. I mean, I particularly, you know, maybe if I was limited only to fights in the United States, uh, I might be a little tired of it, but I'm not even sure that that's the case. I mean, there's so many exciting fighters. There's so many different pathways to reach the public. Uh, these are very, very exciting times. We'll look back at this era and it will appear to us to be a golden era because of what's happening.
It's a good job you love flying and traveling as well, then, Bob.
I love traveling. I mean, wow, what could be bad about it? Uh, you know, the longer the plane trip, the better I like it because I can get a lot of rest on the plane.
Well, let's talk about what Frank Warren believes. I spoke to him recently. He believes it's the biggest fight and the most important fight of the 21st century coming up on May 18th in Riyadh with Fury and Usyk. Do you agree with that, Bob?
Well, it's certainly a very important fight, and Frank is right. Uh, uh, you know, where we haven't had a fight for the undisputed uh, heavyweight championship of the world in a long time. The title has been divided. So it is a very important fight. But funny enough, the best fight of that day may very well be taking place uh, a continent away in the United States in San Diego, fights which go on after uh, Usyk and Fury, and that's Navarrete fighting for a 135 championship against Bohocik, and fight that I'm kicking myself because obviously I won't be able to see because I'll be in Riyadh. Santione and Norman, two really good undefeated young welterweights, putting it all on the line. Those I know will be great fights. Fury and Usyk, I believe will be a great fight. It's certainly a historic fight. Hopefully, the fight lives up to what it signifies.
In terms of the fight itself, how do you sort of envision it? How does it play out for you, Bob?
Well, the thing that I always once this fight was made, I always felt that Fury was a big favorite because I thought his size and his boxing ability would be too much for Usyk. So I'd looked at it as a 3 to 4 to 1 fight in favor of Tyson Fury. But, I'm very troubled with the way Tyson looked in his last fight with Ngannou in Riyadh. I was there. I just thought he looked dreadful. Now, there are two explanations. One, he really didn't train hard for that fight. Or two, when we all put on years, and I should know, we don't function as well as we do when we were younger physically. So is that what we're seeing with Tyson based on the Ngannou fight? Or is it that he didn't take it that seriously and wasn't prepared? And that's what we'll find out on May 18th.
Okay. What did you make of all the backlash that he suffered because he had to postpone his fight in February with the cut?
Well, that happens, One of the great fights that we remember now was the Rumble in the Jungle, Ali and Foreman. And people forget that fight also was postponed for, I think, 6 weeks because Foreman suffered a cut in training. It's boxing; it happens. The fighters have headgear on and so forth, but there's still a lot of contact, and so injuries can happen. It's not something that's never happened before or never happened in a major heavyweight championship fight. It has.
Absolutely. If Tyson is on his A game and really turns up on May 18th, do you expect, or are you confident of a Tyson Fury win, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, if Tyson is on his A game, if it's the Tyson Fury that fought Wilder the last 2 times, that fought Dylan White, there's no way that Usyk or any heavyweight can beat him. But, that's a really big assumption. Does he have it left? That we'll see on May 18th. And that's why Frank is right. What a massive fight this is, because there are so many questions. I mean, Usyk is a great competitor. Now you can look at Usyk and say, well, maybe he's not what he was before. Is he vulnerable to a body shot? Which, when I look at the tape of Usyk's fight with Dubois, it's debatable whether that was a low blow. And if it was called a legitimate blow because it was right on the belt line, Usyk took 5 minutes to recover from it. So the question is his body giving out to any extent? We don't know that. We don't know that. I mean, for me, I look at the Ngannou fight that Fury had, and going back on it, I mean, the way he labored with Ngannou, particularly when we saw how easily Joshua handled Ngannou, I have a lot of questions. But that's good. You always do in boxing because it's a one-on-one sport. And, it's not like a team sport where one guy is not performing that well, but it doesn't affect the team that much. In boxing, it's one guy against one guy, and that's it.
Well, certainly a lot of answers to find out on May 18th. It'll be a great fight, I'm sure. Bob, I want to get your thoughts on Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. I never thought this would happen. I bet you never thought it would happen that Barry's boy Eddie and Frank would be working together so much. But it's great to see. But yeah, it's a bit strange to see though as well, Bob.
Well, I don't know if anybody's working together. I think everybody is working in that part of the world for the kingdom. You know, this 5 against 5 is really manufactured. These aren't 5 Queensberry fighters against 5 Matchroom fighters. They've each picked up fighters to call it 5 against 5. But whatever, everybody is working together because it would be silly not to, based on the resources that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is putting into the sport. So I expect a lot more working together. I mean, you take Beterbiev and Bivol, that fight, in effect, couldn't be made, whether it's Russia or the United States. Nobody could come up with the money necessary to have that fight made economically. It wouldn't have drawn enough to cover the nut, but the kingdom is not really concerned about that. They knew it was a great fight. They wanted to have it. And so thanks to them, we'll be getting, I think, a massively good unification fight for undisputed light heavyweight on June 1st in Riyadh.
Would you say Beterbiev v Bivol on June 1st is one of the best fights that can be made in any weight class in boxing at the moment?
I sure believe that. I mean, Bivol, as he proved with Canelo, is a tremendous fighter, great technician. And my guy, Artur Beterbiev, is a crushing puncher who can box very well. It's going to be a very, very exciting fight.
His Excellency in Riyadh season, how would you describe what they're doing for the sport at the moment, Bob?
Well, the thing you start out with is you have a guy in His Excellency Turkey Al-Sheikh, who is a tremendous boxing fan, who spends a lot of his day looking at films, and I've had the opportunity to spend time with him when I was over there in October for Fury and Nagano, and he knows his boxing, and he knows what he likes, and he has very strong opinions of what makes a good fight. So you start out with a guy who is a tremendous boxing fan. Now, we in boxing are not particularly used to that. We used to deal with entities which like boxing, but they're not obsessed with boxing. I say that in a good way, the way His Excellency is. So it's really fun for everybody to deal with the kingdom because you have the man in charge of the boxing, such a tremendous fan and so knowledgeable. So I think everybody, whether it's Frank or Eddie or myself, we really appreciate that.
Okay. Just want to speak to you about a couple of fights that are coming up, Bob, in relation to yourself. So, yeah, in Australia, in Perth, May 11th, a fantastic fight between George Cmosis Jr. and Vasyl Lomachenko. What are we expecting from this one?
I think that's a great fight. I'm going to be at that fight. I've been all over Australia. Done fights in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and I really, Perth was not something that I've ever thought about. But, Perth is so far away from those population centers. It's like halfway, all the way across the country. It's like to go from Melbourne to Perth is like New York to Los Angeles, long way. And but everybody says it's a great, great place, great people, great sports people. So, and we're practically sold out. So I'm looking forward to visiting Perth and seeing that fight. And I think it's going to be a very, very competitive fight because, Lomachenko was at an age where, he's been fighting for so many years. He had almost 400 fights in the amateurs, and that takes a toll on you. And Cmosis is a live, young fighter, or relatively young, and I look for that to be a splendid battle. And there's Maloney kid, one of the twins, is fighting on that card, so that should be a terrific card. And it's great that that fight is going to be on a Sunday in Australia, a Sunday afternoon, so it comes back to the States in prime time, where there's a lot of interest in the fight, and it will be shown on ESPN on the platform live without anybody having to go into their pocket and pay additional money to watch it.
Mm. Should be a great fight. And then a couple of weeks later, your man Josh Taylor rematches Jack Catterall here in England. Are you confident?
I'll be there.
You'll be there. It's good to hear.
Yeah. See, I got a great trip. It starts in Japan on May the 6th. Is the great Inoue is fighting Neri in a real grudge match, which has gotten the people in Japan really going. I mean, this is the first fight in 30 years that they've been able to stage in the famous Tokyo Dome, which seats about 55,000 people. That's where a baseball team plays. And when they announced the fight, they sold it out in one day.
Wow.
Now, that is not, that happens from time to time in the UK with big venues like that. But everybody was blown away when it happened in Japan. But Inoue, next to the great baseball player Otani, is the most famous athlete in Japan. And so that's a massive event. And after that event, we're going to Perth for Loma's fight with Cmosis. And then after that fight, we're going to Riyadh for what I think is going to be a very, very good heavyweight championship match with Fury and Usyk. And that's on May 18th. And Beterbiev and Bivol is on June 1st. And the Saturday in between in Leeds is Taylor and Catterall. And that's a tremendous fight. So we're going to come back to London, spend a couple of days in London, and then go up, take the train up to Leeds and watch that fight with a couple of my top-ranked people, and then come back to London and fly to Riyadh. And then after Riyadh, we're going to New York, to Madison Square Garden for our Puerto Rican Day fight, which I don't know if it's been announced yet, but it's a tremendous, tremendous card. And that's a hell of a trip. But, the rest of June, we have Teofimo fighting, and then July we have Shakur fighting, and it just goes on and on and on. And that just shows the strength of boxing when all these events can be put on. And I'm happy that, with the exception of Usyk and Fury, all of the events, at least in the States, will be on free television. Because if you put great fights on free television, you get more fans involved. People, have to be smart how they want to spend their money. And the amount of free events that is coming in the United States is something I haven't seen before in years.
So let me get this right. Within the space of 4 weeks, you'll be in Japan, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and England. That is quite incredible, Bob.
Well, yeah, that's okay. And then I'm back in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, and then to New York. And I live in Las Vegas. New York is all the way across the country. So it's actually, what is it, 6 fights, 6 events, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5 or 6 events in that period. And I'm looking forward to that. I like to travel. New York is one of my favorite cities. I'm a New Yorker. That's where I come from. So I can visit relatives and friends in New York. And my experience in Riyadh in October was a good one. Great restaurants now, and nice hotels and great hospitality. So I'm looking forward to that. And London is one of my favorite cities, so to spend time in London. I've never been to Leeds. Everybody says that's a real experience. But, it's something new. I've been up to Manchester. I've done fights in Manchester, but never in Leeds.
Bob Arum in Leeds. That would be interesting. It's a little bit different to London, Bob, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Just want to touch upon Jared Anderson, your heavyweight charge, who's back out in action next Saturday. I know he's had some recent troubles out of the ring, Bob. How is he? What happened there?
Well, he's a young kid and good-looking kid, and he didn't. What he did was wrong, racing cars and so forth. A lot of these kids do that, but it wasn't like he was beating up people in a bar or stealing things. He was behaving the way some 23, 24-year-old kids do, doing stupid things. So now, thank God, he's lost his driver's license, so he can't get in the car. And he's a really nice kid, a really fun kid with a big smile. And I really believe, and he has a big test against this Belgian fighter that had, has a great resume, Mary. And I think that I believe that given the rest of this year and next year, that by 2026, Jared will be fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world and be the next great heavyweight. And he's a lovely young man with a great personality, and it'll be great for boxing.
Okay, good to hear that he's in a good place again and fighting next Saturday. Lastly, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, Bob, but there is a fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. You have any thoughts on that? I mean, Tyson, I spent time with him in Riyadh. I've never seen Tyson act as calmly and as nicely. He's a nice guy now, and Jake Paul is a nice guy. If this was 20 years ago, the fight would truly be a joke. You'd have to have ambulances outside because Tyson would do to Paul what he did to so many of his opponents. knock him out real quick. But, again, at his age, that's old for an athlete. And the question is, does he still have that muscle reaction that an athlete has to have in order to do what he wants to do? And I don't know what that is. I don't know whether he does. I don't think Jake Paul is the second coming of Muhammad Ali by any means. I mean, Jake Paul is, on a good night, maybe competitive with Tommy Fury. Remember, they fought, and Fury beat him. And I thought Fury beat him fairly easily. So, he's at that level, maybe. But again, how can anybody predict what's going to happen when you're in with a 54-year-old guy? I mean, in baseball, great pitches are just a shadow of themselves when they're in their 50s. They're not competing, but if they come for an old-timers day and so forth, you could see that they knew the mechanics, but the ability was no longer there because of age. So again, I just hope nobody gets hurt. I'm glad that Mike is going to make considerable money, and Jake Paul.
Should it be happening, though, Bob? My question was more towards should it really be even happening? Is it disrespectful towards the sport?
Well, I mean, nobody is being held up. It's not going to be on a pay-per-view. It's going to be on Netflix, and Netflix is trying to attract an audience that likes sports, and also testing its ability to get advertisers. So again, there's no harm in it. There's nobody is being hoodwinked in the sense that people aren't being charged 50 pounds or even 25 pounds to watch it. All they have to do is be a subscriber to Netflix, and Netflix has over 100 million subscribers all over the world. So I don't see any harm in it. And I know that whoever referees the fight will see that if Mike gets into trouble because of his age, that they'll stop it. So again, I can't criticize it. I think Netflix made a very, very good move, laying out all this money for that event. We got to be calmed down about these things. It's still boxing. Guys are still wearing gloves. It's still having people talk about boxing, even, a Jake Paul against an old Mike Tyson. So I think it's really good for the sport. But again, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, Bob, I really do appreciate your time. Some great fights coming up for your guys at Top Rank within as we.
Are you going to Riyadh?
I'll be in Riyadh for Fury Usyk, so we'll have an in-person interview.
Good. Yeah, well, it's a Fury. I loved it last time. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it this time.
Absolutely, as you said, Riyadh is a really good place. So yeah, we look forward to that, and I'll see you there in Saudi. Safe travels there.
See you.
Thank you, Bob.